The paper trembled in Ethan Cole's hands, a violent, involuntary shudder that made the stark black type blur and swim before his eyes. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. He stood in the unnervingly quiet HR director's office, a space that always smelled of lemony disinfectant and quiet dread. The words termination of employment burned into his vision like a brand seared onto his future. 34 years old, 8 years with DataStream Solutions. Years of late nights, missed school plays, and quiet dedication, all distilled down to this single, damning sheet of pristine white paper. It accused him of gross negligence, of causing the catastrophic server crash that had cost the company nearly $200,000 and countless client hours. He had tried to explain, his voice cracking with desperate urgency as he pointed to the digital timestamps that proved he was logged out of the system an hour before the cascade. Failure began. He had shown them the chat logs, the emails, but the official report, authored by his own direct manager, was conclusive. No one had listened. The evidence was deemed circumstantial. He was the convenient scapegoat. Now the hollow finality of it all pressed down on him. He mechanically placed a worn coffee mug, a framed photo of Lily building a sandcastle, and a small, succulent plant into the cardboard box provided. As he straightened up, his gaze, blurred with unshed tears, caught movement through the glass partition wall. There, in the brightly lit corporate hallway, stood his daughter. Lily, just 6 years old, clutched the straps of her purple unicorn backpack, her face bright with the innocent, unburdened excitement of a child who believed she was simply picking up her father for an early, special dinner, a treat. She didn't know. She couldn't possibly know that her world was about to tilt on its axis. The sight of her was a physical blow. Ethan lowered his head, squeezing his eyes shut, fighting to master the tremor in his jaw, to keep his composure from shattering into a million pieces in this sterile, humiliating place. He took a deep, ragged breath that did nothing to fill the emptiness in his chest, picked up the light yet soul-crushingly heavy box, and pushed through the office door. And that was precisely when Claire Ashford, CEO of DataStream Solutions, walked past. Her heels made a sharp, authoritative sound on the polished floor, a staccato rhythm of power. She was a woman known more by reputation and fleeting glimpses than direct interaction. She existed in the rarefied air of boardrooms and the penthouse executive floor, a figure from quarterly reports and satellite investor calls. She paused, her trajectory interrupted by the palpable wave of despair emanating from the scene. Her sharp, analytical grey eyes took in everything: the defeated slope of Ethan's shoulders, the cardboard box cradled like a coffin, the termination letter visibly crumpled in his white-knuckled grip. Then her eyes landed on Lily, the small girl, looking up at her father with such pure, unwavering trust. Something shifted in Claire Ashford's expression. A flicker in her composed mask, a fleeting tightness around her eyes that looked almost like recognition. A memory of a different hallway, a different kind of loss. Without a word, she stepped forward, a movement so decisive it seemed to cut through the static of Ethan's panic. She plucked the termination letter from his numb fingers. He was too stunned to resist. She unfolded it, her eyes scanning the text with the speed of someone who digested complex contracts for breakfast. The lines of her face hardened as she read the manager's summary, the list of charges. Her gaze flicked to the manager's name at the bottom, then back to the specific time codes mentioned. She looked up at Ethan, her gaze steady and utterly unreadable. "Come with me," she said, her voice low but clear, leaving no room for argument. Ethan didn't move. The words seemed foreign, impossible, as if she had spoken in a language he had forgotten how to understand. Claire Ashford was speaking to him. She was acknowledging his existence at the exact moment. His existence within these walls had been officially erased. It made no sense. "Sir!" The HR director's voice came from behind him, tinged with uncertainty and confusion. The man had emerged from his office, watching the bizarre tableau. "Miss Ashford, is there something I can help you with?" Claire didn't even turn her head. No, she said simply, her attention fixed on Ethan. Continue with your afternoon. The dismissal in her tone was absolute, ice cold. It was the voice that dismissed entire departments, that vetoed million-dollar proposals. Ethan watched over his shoulder as the HR director's face flushed, with a potent mixture of embarrassment and burning. Curiosity before the man retreated, his office door clicking shut with a sound that now felt oddly insignificant. And still, Claire waited. She had folded the termination letter neatly once, twice, and held it in her hand. Her posture was a study in controlled power, suggesting she had all the time in the world for this, and none of it to waste on hesitation or the explanations of underlings. "Daddy!" Lily's small voice broke through his paralysis. She had crept closer, her little shoes silent on the floor, her wide eyes looking between her father's ashen face and the tall, imposing woman in the exquisitely tailored charcoal suit. "Are we going home?" she asked again. The question cut through Ethan like a shard of glass. Home. Their small, happy apartment with the leaky faucet in the kitchen and the balcony, just big enough for her plastic telescope. The mortgage they had just managed to refinance. The life he had just lost the ability to provide for. The word hung in the air, a beautiful, fragile bubble about to pop. Claire's eyes softened, just for a microsecond, as she looked down at Lily. Then she returned her focus to Ethan. "Bring your daughter," she said, not as a question, but as the next logical step in a plan only she could see. "My office now." She turned and began walking toward the bank of executive elevators, not looking back, operating on the assumption that she would be obeyed. Ethan stood rooted for another second, the war inside him between shattered pride, bewildered hope, and the basic instinct to shield his daughter from this chaos, raging silently. Lily slipped her small hand into his free one, her touch a lifeline. "Is that a princess, Daddy?" Lily whispered, awestruck. That almost broke him. A choked sound, half laugh, half sob, escaped his throat. "Not quite, sweetheart," he managed to whisper back. "But we're going to follow her for a minute, okay?" Holding his daughter's hand and clutching the box that held the remnants of his professional life, Ethan Cole followed Claire Ashford. They walked past rows of cubicles where heads discreetly turned, past the familiar terrain of his now former department, toward the elevator that required a key card he had never possessed. Claire simply waved her own card. The doors slid open silently, and they stepped into the serene, mirrored interior. The ride to the top floor was conducted in utter silence, save for Lily's quiet humming of a cartoon theme song. Ethan watched the floor numbers light up in succession, each one carrying him further from the world he knew and into one he could not comprehend. The doors opened directly into a serene, spacious reception area. Claire led them past a stunned assistant, through a set of double doors and into her office. It was not just an office, it was a command post. One entire wall was glass, offering a panoramic view of the city sprawling below. The other walls were lined with books and subtle modern art. Her desk was a vast sweep of polished dark wood, clear but for a single monitor and a sleek laptop. She gestured to a large, comfortable sofa in the sitting area to the side. "Please sit." She then walked to her desk, picked up her phone and pressed a button. "Maya, can you please bring a juice box and perhaps some colored paper and crayons to my office?" "Thank you." She put the phone down and finally turned to fully face Ethan, who had perched on the edge of the sofa, holding Lily close. Claire Ashford leaned against the front of her desk, folding her arms. She held up the folded termination letter. "This is wrong, Mr. Cole," she stated matter-of-factly. Ethan could only stare. The timestamps. "I saw them. I also know that the server architecture for that project was flagged as unstable in an internal audit 2 months ago. An audit your manager, Mr. Bracken, chose to ignore due to cost concerns." She paused, her grey eyes like flint. "I also know Bracken was in the system, remotely, during the time of the crash, working on an unauthorized side project. The login was masked, but not to the level my security team can uncover." Ethan's breath caught. The world seemed to spin and then right itself on a terrifying new axis. You knew?" And you let this happen? I did not know, she corrected sharply, a flash of something, guilt, anger in her eyes. Not until approximately 5 minutes ago when I saw that report with his name on it and saw you with your daughter. She glanced at Lily, who was now tentatively exploring a small sculpture on a side table. My father was fired when I was 7. He was also set up by a superior who was covering his own tracks. He never fought it. He spent the next 20 years broken, and we spent them poor and ashamed. Her voice was clinical, but the story hung in the air, raw and potent. I made a vow then that I would never be powerless like that again. And when I gained power, I vowed I would never turn a blind eye to it being used this way. Not if I could see it. The office door opened softly, and the assistant brought in the juice and crayons for Lily, quickly and quietly setting them on the coffee table before leaving. Claire pushed off the desk. Your termination is null and void, effective immediately. You are on paid administrative leave for the next 2 weeks, while a formal investigation is launched into the server crash and the conduct of your manager. You will report directly to me upon your return as part of a new infrastructure integrity team. Your salary will be adjusted accordingly. The words washed over Ethan, so immense he couldn't process them. It wasn't just his job back. It was vindication. It was a future resurrected from ashes. I don't know what to say, he stammered, tears finally spilling over. This time from a relief so profound it felt like pain. Say nothing to anyone outside this room yet, Claire said, moving to sit in a chair opposite him. The legal and HR processes must be followed precisely. For the first time, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips as she watched Lily, now happily drawing a lopsided sun with a yellow crayon. For now, take your daughter to that early dinner. Make it a good one. The bill is on the company. She extended the folded termination letter back to him. You might want to keep this. A reminder that not all stories end where they seem to. Ethan took the paper, its meaning now utterly transformed. He looked from the powerful, enigmatic woman who had just rewritten his destiny to his daughter, whose world remained blissfully intact, still colored with sunshine and unicorns. The weight of the cardboard box in his lap no longer felt like an ending, but a bizarre, precious bridge between a past hour of despair and a future he could once again dare to envision. He stood up, holding the box, the letter, and his daughter's hand. Thank you, Miss Ashford. More than I can ever say. Claire gave a slight acknowledging nod. Goodbye, Mr. Cole, Lily. She watched them go, the man standing taller now, the child skipping beside him, chattering about pancakes for dinner. As the door closed, Claire Ashford turned to look out at the city, her reflection grave in the glass. Sometimes power wasn't about the deals you made on phone calls. It was about the justice you served in a quiet hallway, glimpsing a ghost of your own past in the eyes of a frightened child. Thank you for watching this emotional story of justice and unexpected kindness. If this story moved you, please show your support. Like this story if it touched your heart. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that fairness can prevail. And subscribe to my channel, Kindness True Stories, for more powerful narratives about compassion, integrity, and the moments that change lives. Your support helps us share more light. Thank you.